San Antonio Spurs will take on the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. Let's preview the game with my colleague over here at the Locked On NBA Network, Mr. Danny Cunningham of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Locked On Spurs and Locked On Cavs on this crossover episode right here on the Locked On NBA Podcast Network. I am Locked On Spurs host Jeff Garcia, the guy next to me. You see him right there. Paparazzi, put down the cameras. I know he's here, everybody. He's here. Danny Cunningham, Locked On Cavs. The guy to go to for all things Cleveland Cavaliers. So make sure to subscribe to Locked On Cavs and Locked On Spurs, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Danny, they all know where they should go by now. They got to go on YouTube. They got to go on iTunes. They got to go on Spotify. And for me, you also got to check out Ken's 5 Plus app. You can find Locked On Spurs there as well. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. So you want to go ahead and get that FanDuel app right now. So you want to be right in the middle of the action this season. Visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what are Danny and I talking about? I think it's obvious by now, right? Spurs, Cavs, yeah, they take on each other tonight out in Cleveland. We're going to be looking at the state of the Cavs at this point of their season, state of the Spurs at this juncture of their season as well, and then get into the meat and potatoes of it, looking at tonight's game. Danny, before we hit record, we were talking about your Cavs, and right away you put your head down. You're like, "Oh, they're bad. They're bad.
It's been so tough. Bad." It's been tough. They've lost 4 out of 5 as we're sitting here talking Thursday afternoon. The vibes are not great in Cleveland right now.
Yeah.
They're certainly, and like, to be fair, it's early. It is December 4th. There's a lot of basketball left to be played. It doesn't mean that this is who they're going to be for the remainder of the season, but they were a team that came into the season as the favorites to win the Eastern Conference. And very rarely have they looked like a team that belongs as the favorites to win the Eastern Conference. So it's not been great so far this year in Cleveland.
Yeah, look at the last 5 games for Cleveland, 1-4. So yeah, not good. Now, we'll get into the Spurs in just a few minutes here, but again, before we hit record for this episode, we're talking a little pre-production talk here, and I said, Danny, I was looking at your guys' stats, and man, you guys rank high up there in 3-pointers made and whatnot when it comes to beyond the arc. And you kind of quieted me down pretty fast. You said, Jeff, pump the brakes here, man. Don't let those stats fool you. You want to explain that to us?
So right now the Cavs rank first in terms of three-pointers attempted per game. They take just under 45 threes per night, which is a lot of three-pointers. And I think it's at the point where the Cavs are taking too many shots from beyond the arc, given what the personnel of this team is. And you came back and said, well, they are third in three-pointers made. Yeah. They're making over 15 of them, which you would think would be a pretty good place to be. Well, the problem is if you filter it by percentage, the Cavs are all the way down at number 22. They're making only 34.8% of their threes. So they're taking a lot of them and they're making a lot of them, but they're not making enough of them. Like for them to be taking the 45 threes, we'll just round up there, per game that they're at right now, they need to be making somewhere closer to 40%. It doesn't need to be at 40%. Like the math will support it if you can be at 37, 38%, but being at 34.5% is not a tenable place for them to be. A big reason why their offense has not been anywhere near what it was last year, where it was the best offense in the NBA and the second most efficient offense in NBA history. But that to me is something that needs to get figured out. Part of it is the Cavs are missing a few really good 3-point shooters because of injuries. Part of it is the ball movement hasn't been as good. They haven't been able to find the same offensive flow that they had last year with so many guys being in and out of the lineup. But it's just it's a bad thing right now for them offensively. They're not balanced enough. And when you are balanced, you can afford to miss some of those threes, but when you're not, you have to make them, and the Cavs aren't.
Yeah, exactly. You touch on something right now. And I want to follow up on this, is that you said they're just bad right now. They're just bad right now.
Yeah.
Is this, would you and, the Cavs fan base right now consider just a simple one of those moments during the regular season, or is this starting to cause concern?
There certainly is concern amongst the fan base. I think there is a little bit of concern inside the locker room. It's not necessarily something they want to admit. And Donovan Mitchell spoke on Wednesday night after the Cavs lost to the Portland Trail Blazers, in which I think is the most disappointing loss of the season so far. I don't know if it's the worst loss, but it's certainly the most disappointing. He doesn't want to use the concern word yet. It's early December still. And he's right. They have a long time to go. And the past couple of years, they've gone through a little bit of a rut or a lull, whatever you want to call it. in the month of March. And I think that is a worse thing to do than go through it in December. But right now, the Cavs aren't playing good basketball. What I think they sorely need is they need to get through these two games they have. So they play the Spurs tonight. They play the Golden State Warriors on Saturday, and then they don't play again until next Friday. It means that they will have a little opportunity to get healthier. They'll have a little bit of an opportunity to practice together and to find a rhythm. And they can basically, if all goes well for them, they can say, you know what, those first 25 games, while they count in the standings, that was our preseason. Now is when things start, and now is when we're going to ramp up, and now is when we're going to go. But if it doesn't happen now, and the Cavs do have a very favorable schedule coming out of the NBA Cup break, they've got 6 games against 4 really bad teams. And if that happens, I think you can start to talk yourself back into the Cavs. But if it doesn't happen, it's hard for me to see this season going the way we anticipated that it would go before it started.
Yeah. Well, I guess the good news is for your Cavs is there'll be no Victor Wembanyama. So that's good, right?
I mean,
that could be an opportunity there.
The Spurs have still been good without him. Like, give the Spurs all the credit in the world. I know they haven't been perfect without Wemby, but like they've still, I think and maybe you could speak about this a little bit more than I can, but from that perspective, when you are missing a player of that caliber, right? If the team can be around 500 when that guy's out, you feel really good about it. Like,
absolutely.
And not to say that these rosters are the same, because I think San Antonio has a much better roster than this team I'm about to bring up. But look at Milwaukee. And we found out on Thursday that they're going to be without Giannis for somewhere between 2 weeks and a month. And the Bucks this year have been terrible when Giannis can't play. If the Spurs were terrible when Wemby couldn't play, I think everyone would sort of understand that. But the fact that they've been still solid to good, I think says a lot about where the Spurs team is. And even though Wemby isn't playing in this game on Friday, I would not count the Spurs out because of that.
No, absolutely not. And we'll definitely dive into why the Spurs are clicking in just a few minutes. We're talking with Locked On Cavs host right here on Locked On Spurs, or this crossover episode of Locked On Spurs and Locked On Cavs, Danny Cunningham. Danny, a little bit more about your Cavs before you pivot and go to the Spurs after the break. I look at this Cavs team, and you're right. You know, heading into this season, I said, man, Cleveland's going to be right up there, coming off a solid season last year. Is there any ripple effect of how the season ended that leaked into this season? Because it seemed as strong as this Cavs team looked throughout last season. Postseason was kind of, just abrupt.
I think the ripple effect are the injuries that they've dealt with. I don't think there's because there shouldn't be we accomplished all this last year, we don't need to take the regular season seriously, because you mentioned they had a great regular season. They won 64 games last year. They were awesome. Basically from opening night in mid-October until really through the first round of the playoffs, because they just wiped the floor with Miami in that first round. But they shouldn't have a hangover from that, because ultimately they failed to accomplish anything close to their goals in the postseason. And the ripple effect that I see is Darius Garland. And Garland hurt his toe in that series against Miami. He missed the final 2 games. It didn't matter. The Cavs won those games by a combined 100 points because Miami stunk. And then he missed a couple of games against the Pacers. And when he returned for the final 3 games in that series, was never the same. His toe didn't necessarily heal the way that they thought it might. He ended up needing to have surgery early in the month of June. I believe June 9th was the surgery date. He missed the first handful of games of the season, and he's been in and out of the lineup since then. And Garland has so far struggled to look as explosive as he did last year. He had an injury, a hip injury in February of last year. But prior to that, to me, he looked like a guy from October until February, right after the All-Star break last year. Yeah. He looked to me like a guy that was an All-NBA candidate. I'm not going to say that he would have made third-team All-NBA or whatever, but he was somebody that I think merited the conversation about potentially being on one of those teams. And he's looked so far away from that guy so far this year. And I think it's all understandable and it's all explainable, and it's nothing you can be mad at him for. But I do think for the Cavs to really get things back on track, they need him to find that comfort level, to find that rhythm. So I look at the injury that he suffered in the postseason last year as the biggest ripple effect that they have. Because if Darius Garland is healthy, I firmly believe this Cavs team looks a lot different than it does, but he hasn't been this year. And I think that is a big part of the reason why, as you and I sit here and talk, they're 13-10 instead of somewhere else along. Should they be 18-5 right now? I don't know exactly what the proper record would be if they were healthy, but I certainly think injuries do play a part into where they're at in the standings.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Anytime you lose a player a lot like that guy, you're going to feel the effect of whether he's in a Cavs uniform or whatever NBA uniform. I mean, that's a good point. Hey, look, the Spurs reportedly were interested in him, a few seasons
And with
ago.
good reason. He would have been a
And
great
with
fit
yeah,
alongside Wemby.
yeah,
He would
exactly.
have been awesome. He'd have been a better fit than De'Aaron Fox alongside Wemby. I really do believe that. But he can't stay healthy right now, and that's a problem.
Yeah. And the Spurs don't need more health issues right now at this point in their season, although they're doing good. And with that, we're going to take a break. So when we get back, we're looking at the state of the Spurs, how they're looking heading into tonight's contest versus the Cavs right here on this crossover episode of Locked On Spurs and Locked On Cavs. This season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes it the entire season so much fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There are nights when your team stresses you out, right? Let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need dessert, like now. Those late night interview hits? Well, suddenly you need chips at midnight, right? DoorDash is built exactly for that. And if group chat says pull up, DoorDash makes sure you showed up prepared. Snacks, cups, even a phone charger for the friend who always at 2%. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season delivered right to your door. DoorDash, in your bag all season long.
So, Jeff, we talked about the Spurs being without Wemby, right? And they've
Yeah.
missed him because of this calf strain. And I imagine that he'll be back sometime soon. He's not going to play in tonight's game, but I imagine
Sure.
that he will be back sometime soon. But I talked about the team being able to stay afloat and not fall off a cliff the way that we've seen other teams do when they lose a star of his caliber, or even, I think, slightly below his caliber too. It'll happen to some teams. What to you, like, as you watch, what has made this team be able to keep things going in the right direction despite not having the franchise player?
And not to sound cliche, but it really has been the collective. It really, really has. Everybody on this roster right now is stepping up their game. Start with the obvious, De'Aaron Fox, pumping in about 20 a night now since he's been kind of the guy in absence of Wemby. So not too surprising, De'Aaron Fox upped his offensive game. But you're seeing contributions from everyone. Devin Vassell taking advantage of the extra touches, extra minutes. He's now a threat on both ends of the court, even as far deep into the bench as Mitch Johnson is going to a rookie Carter Bryant, getting in there, giving some tough defense, having to defend Joker at one point, that last a few games ago. So you're seeing a lot of contributions from everybody. And I really mean that. I mean, everybody is stepping up their game. Old Man River, although they say he's old, he's not in real life. But Harrison Barnes, that guy, has been so clutch for this team, such a leader on and off that court. I've been in that locker room, and let me tell you, he really, really, really has the respect of the players. So you've seen that veteran influence on the court, and he's coming up big for the Spurs, whether it be from the 3-shot or just in clutch situations, sealing wins for the Spurs. Sure, losing Wemby hurts. Losing Stephon Castle hurts, but you're also seeing the emergence of Dylan Harper, the rookie, the number 2 pick. I mean, just coming in, and it's almost plug and play. Mitch Johnson recently said, well, the kid can play. And that was a whole quote right there. I mean, and he can. Defensively, offensively, in clutch time too. He hit a key 3 versus Memphis in San Antonio before they started this current road trip. And not only that, he drove to the basket with just a few minutes left in the game when the game was on the line and hit a pivotal shot. So everybody is stepping up, and Luke Cornett, game-saving block. The list goes on and on. Yeah, has their defense dropped? Of course. You got Wemby there. It's going to drop. But they're finding ways to win, and I like that about this squad right now.
What's the latest with Stephon Castle? Because, and maybe you should give the Spurs
question.
even more credit, because it's not only been Victor Wembanyama that's been out, and I know he's been out a little bit longer, but it's been Stephon Castle that's been out too, and he's obviously a very big part of who the Spurs are and what they want to be as a team. So what's the latest? Like, when do you expect him back? What do you think that process is going to look like of getting him back into the fold?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to answer your question like this. Like days ago. I mean, that's when everybody expected him back. But with the way the Spurs are playing right now, and the Spurs' reputation for being just overly protective of player health. I'm not surprised he's not back yet. He looks ready to go. He's on the bench. He's in street clothes. He's jumping up and down, pumping his team up. He doesn't show any signs of wear and tear or anything bothering him. I think this is just the Spurs being the Spurs. And you rewind the clock and go back to media day when De'Aaron Fox was on that podium and he asked, how's your finger feeling, all that good stuff. He goes, "Oh, I'm ready to go. It's just those guys I'm waiting for." And he pointed towards the Spurs staff. So this is just the Spurs being the Spurs. But I do expect them, maybe not tonight versus the Cavs. I cannot see him. Maybe Wemby for sure. But I cannot see him missing the big knockout game versus the Lakers in the NBA Cup race. So I would expect him back by then. And I would hope he gets back by then because he'll need to get his legs back. Him and Wemby, that synergy between the two, the two-man stats, I mean, it's just like, wow. That Castle could possibly be maybe the real Coast counterpart to Wemby, not De'Aaron Fox. So, but you're definitely seeing the loss of him on the defensive end. I bring that the defensive end is because as good as the Spurs have been playing of late, and they have been, and even minus Wemby and Castle, man, they can't defend the three worth a bleep at all. Ask Atlanta how wide open they were. Ask the Suns
what do you
how
think
wide
leads
open they were.
that? Because to your point, the Spurs are 28 opponent 3-point percentage. Opponents are shooting just under 39% from beyond the arc against them. What do you think leads to that?
I think you're seeing obviously the lack of the perimeter. That's obvious, Stephon Castle not there. Okay, but aside from the obvious, I just think it's just a lack of attention, a lack of effort sometimes. I think they get caught up so much that they overthink things. And when they're trying to defend the three, I feel like some of these younger guys don't want to overly commit because they don't have the human eraser behind them. So I think there was that adjustment period. And I got to be honest with you, they're trying to figure it out themselves. In recent games in San Antonio and post games, whenever, that stat looks kind of like, "Oh, Spurs, what were you thinking?" They're asked and they're like, we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure it out. And I think that is high on their to-do list right now. If I could just put some sort of opinion on this, it's just be like sometimes it's just the lack of switching and rotations. They're just not clicking right. And you're seeing teams expose that. If it Luke, they're Darren, come on, Luke Cornett, come closer. Let me just blow past you. Or, let me see if you're not going to get away from the paint. Carter Bryant, let's pick on him. He's a rookie. He ain't going to know where to rotate. So, and I'm a little shocked by this too, because the commitment of defense was stressed in the media day session and almost every single post-game chat we have with the team. And that area of the three line, that's a work in progress. But in today's NBA, you can't do that. You got to get better on the three line, and he's defending it.
Now, there was obviously a very big shift organizationally over the summer where Mitch Johnson was promoted from the interim head coach, taking over for Greg Popovich. I don't remember exactly at what point during the season, but during last season, now being the full-time head coach. What are the differences that you've noticed in the way that he handles things, and not to necessarily compare him to the guy that I believe is the greatest head coach in NBA history, but what differences do you notice in the way that he handles things versus the way Pop handled things?
Well, media sessions are better now. Fun. They're a little bit more relaxed now, but you know what stands out for the guy you're seeing on your screen right now, everybody, Mitch Johnson, is his poise. Danny, I seen this team get manhandled. I seen this team on the opposite end manhandling other teams, and he's the same coach. He's the same guy. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. He stays even keel. And I like that because this is still, sure, you got your veterans like Barnes and Olynyk and Cornette on the roster, but relatively the young guys, this is their team. And I like that he's imparting that type of relaxed, poised persona because they're going to have to relax. They can't get too hyped. They can't get overly confident. And I see that as a big, big shift. Pop was notorious for this. He would just fire off the S word soft, often, even to the big three era, even till the Kawhi era. But he hasn't, this Mitch Johnson has not done that whatsoever this season or even last season when he was just interim. So all in all, the big difference is that he's also willing to, and maybe just a byproduct, he has no choice. But Pop, again, didn't really play young guys as much as maybe when he felt. He's throwing rookies out there, Carter Bryant in the mix. He's throwing them in the fire. And I like that. I don't like that. He's younger. He's in his 30s. He can relate better to the players. Not to say Pop tried, because he did. He tried to relate them. But that age gap that was there last season, before Pop exited because of health reasons, till now, I think that helps as well. And Mitch is fiery. He's still, we got to remember, Danny, he's still technically a rookie NBA head coach.
Right.
So sometimes he does make some questionable rotations. But I think that's part of his learning process, his learning curve. And sometimes I see the refs kind of like, all right, settle down, young buck, settle down. You're not there yet. But little by little, he's getting the confidence of Spurs fans. Now, mind you, Danny, he was hired during the time when guys like Mike Malone were available.
Right.
Taylor Jenkins were available. I mean, the list goes on and on. Becky Hammond, not possibly. But they were with the guy who has been in-house for quite some time, which is not surprising, but yeah. So that tells me exactly how much they value how much he brings this team. And just as much you got to give rookies a little slack when they're on the court, sometimes I think you got to give Mitch a little slack. He'll figure his way out. But the good news is he has a boss, president, or as he calls himself, El Jefe, above him in a different office. So if you're in Selena, buddy, I'm pretty sure Pop will be there for him.
Yeah, that is certainly something that I think would be a big help for a rookie head coach stepping into quite a big spot down in San Antonio. But what do you let's move over to tonight's game? Just kind of
absolutely. Let's go and do that. Let's talk about FanDuel. NFL Sunday moves fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best way when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, defense tightens, and momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads, money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet the next touchdown scorer, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. And it's time to finally get down to the meat and potatoes of this thing. Cavs versus Spurs tonight in Cleveland. Road game number 2 for the Spurs. And for the Cavs, hopefully they can just shake out of whatever funk they're in right now and just get back on the winning track. And right off the bat, I know your Cavs, you're in a bad spot right now. I get it. But, Danny, if we look at the recent history between these two teams, my goodness, you sure the Cavs just don't own the Spurs? 8-1 in their last 9 games versus the Spurs. 5 straight wins against the Spurs overall, and 4 straight wins at your gym. Looks like history is good to the Cavs when it comes to that other team wearing silver and black jerseys.
Yeah, but I think you kind of have to context matters here, right? Okay. Like the Spurs last season were not a great team, especially once Victor Wembanyama exited the lineup, and both matchups between the Cavs and the Spurs came after Wemby was ruled out for the remainder of the season. So they didn't see the true San Antonio Spurs because he wasn't there. And the Cavs won both of those games, although the game in San Antonio, I do recall, featured a pretty big lead for the Cavs that the Spurs had a chance to win the game at the buzzer and ended up not being able to convert that. And then even the year before, the Spurs were in Wemby's rookie year and not necessarily a great team. And the Cavs were a team that won 48 games and ended up winning a playoff series. And the year before that, the Cavs were a team that won 51 games. So they have, I think, just because of where the teams have been at, the Spurs until this year, I don't look at it as a team that has necessarily tried to be good. And the Cavs have been a team that has been good over the past couple of years. And I think that when that does tend to be the case, you're going to see records that are like this, especially when the teams only play twice a year because it's an interconference matchup. So I don't necessarily think there's a whole ton to it, especially considering the fact that I believe Wemby has only played against the Cavs once, maybe twice so far in his career.
Yeah, it's a shame that he's not playing tonight because that would have been great to see him versus your big guys in the paint. I was looking forward to those big man matchups. Nevertheless, for San Antonio, the good vibes keep on going. You start off this current road trip that they're on with a win in Orlando. I really thought that'd be a closer. I guess it was kind of a close contest, but the Spurs were leading for the most part of the game. It got tight at the end, but thanks to a Luke Cornett game-saving block, Spurs got the W. So the Spurs are definitely coming in with a lot of confidence. Again, playing without Wemby, playing without Steph Castle, racking up W's. Everybody's playing great. There's good vibes in San Antonio right now. For me, I get it. I understand, Danny. You're about the 3 shot for you guys. Those don't believe the hype when it comes to those stats, and I totally understand that. But let me give you a little secret here, Danny. For some reason, whenever it's the Spurs, other players decide to be Steph Curry for the night. It's the weirdest thing. Ask any Spurs fan on social media, hey, what happens when fill-in-the-blank player sees the Spurs from the 3 line? They'll say, oh, it's party time. It's pretty much throwing bombs in there. So for me, I got to see the Spurs get better on that 3 line. I think Spurs fans and myself as well do not want to see maybe the Cavs get a little bit of a touchback from their
the Cavs definitely need a get-right game as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Like, they've not been a team that's been shooting the basketball nearly as well as they need to, as I mentioned earlier in the show from Beyond Arc. And on the game they played against Portland on Wednesday night, they were 13 of 52, and that's just not a healthy place to be.
Yeah, exactly. And, that whole cliche about live by the 3, die by the 3, that definitely applies to the Spurs. If you're looking most of their losses this year, they're shooting under 30% from the 3 line. So there's something right there. But you're absolutely right. For the Cavs, they need to get right game from the 3 line. The Spurs are the perfect team to play against right now. You saw the stat earlier. They ranked near the bottom of defending the 3 line. For San Antonio, too, for me, it's just keep on keeping on. Just keep that mojo going. I like, as much as I don't like that Wemby's not out there, Danny, I do like that he's also not out there because sometimes I feel that Wemby's a big crutch for these guys. Like, I can gamble a little bit more. Wemby's behind me. I can't find a good shot. Whatever. I'm not going to go create one. Here, Wemby, you do your thing. I like that. It teaches them how to be better complementary players. Does that make sense, Danny? Like, you're kind of taking the trainees off. Yeah. Training off.
It's a thing I think that can be frustrating in the present moment, but I think it's a thing that can pay off down the line. And I think the Cavs are going through this a little bit right now too, because the Cavs have had to play guys that are in their second year, first year, third year in some cases that you didn't necessarily anticipate being a heavy part of the rotation with this team being fully healthy, but Max Strus has not played in a game yet this year and won't play until probably January if I had to bet. Sam Merrill has missed the past, I think, 7 games because of a hand injury. He's a big part of this team. Jared Allen has been in and out of the lineups because he's got a fractured finger on one hand and a sprained finger on the other hand, so he can't really catch the basketball right now. Larry Nance Jr. has been out of the lineup. Lonzo Ball is in and out of the lineup, and we're recording this before the injury report comes out, but I would imagine he does not play in this game on Friday because he doesn't play back-to-backs, and the Cavs play on Saturday as well. So the Cavs have had to rely upon guys like Tyrese Proctor, like Naquan Tomlin, who's on a 2-way contract, Jalen Tyson, who was their first-round draft pick a year ago, Craig Porter Jr., a former undrafted free agent that is in his 3rd year. So the Cavs have needed to rely upon these guys, and they've been good, and the hope is that this will pay off down the line, but it can lead to some frustrating results in the present time too.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's in your gym. So how are you feeling about tonight's game? Is this a get-right game for the Cavs, or you think they're in for a fight?
I think that they will probably be in for a fight because they just don't have the rhythm. They don't have the good vibes. They're missing a lot right now. And it's not necessarily something that you can put your finger on all the time. But I guess like nothing would surprise me. Like with Victor Wembanyama not on the floor, the Cavs, I think, are very clearly the more talented team. But right now the Spurs are certainly the better team. And I think that so far this year, the Cavs have played maybe one team that's more talented than them, and that's the Houston Rockets. I look at up and down Eastern Conference standings, and I don't see a team with more talent than the Cavs, but they're 13-10 because they've underachieved, not played to their standard, and I don't know what to expect from this team because they're so inconsistent on a night-to-night basis. So maybe they'll blow the Spurs out, or maybe they'll lose. I genuinely have no idea, Jeff.
Yeah, I hope not, everybody. I hope not. As for myself, road game in Cavs territory. I'm gonna go. I mean, look, I'm not gonna go against the Spurs, obviously, but if I take off my Spurs cap, literally, I just think the Spurs depth is just a killer this year. I mean, that depth is shiny bright this year. From Luke Cornett stepping in for Wemby, obviously he can't replace Wemby, but he's definitely doing yeoman's work and it's being effective. From the depth at point guard with Dylan Harper shining and Fox right there with him, to the swing guys, Keldon Johnson, who's everybody first guy. This is major for Keldon and Danny. He went as a rookie, thrown into the fire because of the pandemic, right? And then pre-Wemby was the face of the franchise for a while. He accepted that. And then post-Wemby goes to a reduced role with him, and now to a bench player, and he's never, ever complained, and he's producing this year. So they got that Harrison Barnes guy. Yeah, that old man, he's there producing. I think the Spurs depth is just a lot to handle for most NBA teams. So I'm going to lean on the Spurs deepness. Does that make a word? I'm going to make a word right here on this crossover episode and just say, yeah, I think the Spurs depth will shine bright. But I do agree with you. I think it will be a dogfight tonight. I think these are two proud teams. One team that wants to get right and one team that just wants to continue the good vibes. So that's a clash of statuses right there. So I'm going to go with San Antonio getting the dub out in Cleveland. Sorry, Danny. Sorry. I got to go with the silver black.
I have no idea what to expect. I can't figure this thing out. This team can figure their own selves out. The Spurs winning this game would be of zero surprise to me.
Right. Yeah.
Cavs winning this game would be of zero surprise to me. Like there's no pulse to have the finger on right now.
Absolutely. He is Danny Cunningham, host of Locked On Cavs. You want to go on X and just search Locked On Cavs, subscribe to it, and then from there you can see Danny's handle and give him a follow as well. And of course, everybody, y'all can follow me on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone. Of course, Locked On Spurs on X as well. And speaking for Danny as well, we want to thank y'all for making the Locked On Sports Podcast Network the number one in the nation. That's awesome. That's just awesome. It's probably all those heavy numbers that go to Locked On Cavs that just carried us to that level.
Let's not get carried away.
But we thank y'all for making that happen. And we also thank y'all for subscribing to Locked On Cavs and Locked On Spurs, wherever you get y'all's favorite podcasts. We know you know where to go, right? You know y'all want to be an everydayer. But if you're not and want to become one, you want to go to YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and for me, the Kens 5 San Antonio Plus app. Go subscribe right there. That's why you can go get all that you need when it comes to the Cavs and Spurs on Locked On Cavs and Locked On Spurs. And good luck tonight, Danny. Hopefully we get a good fight. That's all I want. Just give us a good, strong battle tonight.
I hope to be able to at some point figure out what to expect from the Cavs, and maybe tonight will be a step in that direction.
I feel like maybe at the end of this crossover episode, we should do the therapy session where Danny, just get him on the couch, and I'll be here with my notepad. Be all right, Danny. When did it all begin for you?
Opening night.
Opening night right there. All right, on that note, we're going to put a lock on this crossover episode of Locked On Cavs and Locked On Spurs.